The moistures are very important to whatever density, wet density we determine out there. We have to reduce it down to what we call dry density. And the only way to do that is to run a moisture content of the soil so we can adjust to the dry density. And there's 3 ways to do it, as we mentioned earlier. One of them is the oven method, which is probably the oldest method here, and it takes the longest time to do it, but it's probably the most accurate. And microwave can be very accurate too, of course. You just have to make sure you get all the moisture out of it, for sure. And it doesn't really, and it's quicker. Over here, we got the speedy, which is used by some districts. It's probably the quickest way, although some districts don't use it because it isn't quite as accurate, and you have to be careful with it. If you use it, you should try to compare the moistures to what you would normally get in an oven, so you can make adjustments if you have to. Okay, so we'll go with, I guess we'll start for anything you want to say before the videos, Mark?
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight a few highlights in the procedure. First of all, record all weights to the nearest 1/10 of a gram and your moistures to the 1/10 of a percent. In the procedure, there is a sample obtained chart in there for the maximum size particle and the minimum size sample. You want to make sure that you have at least those minimum size samples covered. To dry the sample, you dry it in an oven at 230 degrees plus or minus 9 Fahrenheit, and you dry overnight or 15 to 16 hours, which is considered dried to consistent weight. And if you can't wait to dry it overnight, then consistent weight is defined weighing in consecutive readings that doesn't change by more than 1/10 of a percent. And that's pretty much all I have for that procedure. Kurt, if you want to go to the video.
Hi, I'm Mark Riley with the North Dakota DOT Fargo District. I'm going to show you the North Dakota T265 laboratory determination of moisture content of soils. That procedure can be found in the North Dakota DOT Field Sampling and Testing Manual. If you're not sure if your manual is updated, please check the North Dakota DOT website for the most current versions. So, to get your moisture content, you would start off with a tiered pan. Put your wet soil on the pan. Weigh your wet soil. Then you would place your soil in a 230 degree plus or minus 9 degree oven. And you would leave that in the oven until it weighs a consistent weight or overnight to be determined dry. The consistent weight is defined that it doesn't change by more than 0.1% of moisture. So once you sample is dry, pull it out of the oven. Let your sample cool till you can touch the pan. Then you weigh your dry weight and calculate out your determination of moisture. That is the determination of, or laboratory determination of soils. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll proceed in with the microwave method. Anything you want to say before this one, Mark?
Yeah, again, make sure you record all your weights to the nearest gram and 1/10 of a percent for your moisture. Make sure you're using a clean, dry, microwave-safe dish. Again, there's a recommended sample size for the size material in the procedure. Place your container in the microwave with a heat sink and set the power setting to defrost. Set your timer to 3 minutes and start. The initial 3 minutes is a minimum. After that, you take your material out, break it up a little bit with a spatula or whatever, making sure you don't lose any, and then return your oven and reheat for 1 minute at a time and repeat the process until constant weight has been achieved. Some general notes with the procedure on this: the initial power setting may be higher than defrost. Proper power setting can be determined through use and experience with the particular microwave. And the initial heating time, and then soils that have high moisture, like clay, take a lot longer to dry, so your initial heating time for this soil can be up to 12 minutes. Care should be taken to reduce the cohesive sample sizes to 1/4 inch to speed in drying, and then just make sure they're dried to constant weight. We can go ahead and play the video, Kurt.
Hi, I'm Mark Riley with the North Dakota DOT Fargo District. I'm going to show you North Dakota D4363 microwave method of drying soils. This procedure can be found in the North Dakota DOT Field Sampling and Testing Manual. If yours is not updated, please see the DOT website for the most current version. For this procedure, you'll need a heat seek device with the glass rod to put water in this. Place in the back corner of your microwave. Okay. Start out with your tiered container. Place your wet sample in. Reweigh your container. And you would place that in the microwave. Run the microwave on defrost or half power for 3 minutes for the first cycle for drying. After your 3 minutes is up, you take material out of the oven, stir and break up the points. Then you would replace it back in the microwave and rerun on defrost or half power for 1 minute cycles until the sample is dry. Now the sample is considered dry when it reaches a constant weight, which does not vary or change by more than 0.1% is when your material is dry. After you get that dry weight, remember you have to let this cool off to room temperature where you can touch it to get your official dry weight. Little tip for you guys while you're doing this, it may take, depending on how wet your soil is, it may take 15 to 20 minutes to do these, and after about 5 minutes the water and these get hot. So you can dump the water out, re-put water in, put your heat sink back in, replace the microwave with cool water will help your sample actually dry quicker than boiling your water in. That is the determination of moisture content by use of microwave. Thank you.
Just for a little tip there too, Kurt, I didn't put it in the video, but make sure you put a little piece of paper towel or a piece of paneling, light plywood or something on your scale and your tabletops when you pull them out to set that hot container on, because if your table is cool, you're out in a field lab and the microwave is close to the air conditioner and you set that down on the scale or tabletop, it might be differential in the coolness there. Your microwave dish will break and then you got to start all over. And then I seen we did have a question on they've seen moisture's done in the microwave without the glass rod, and it's just to prevent the water in there from boiling over. And like I said too, it also gets really hot, so if you have extra water, dump that water out and add cooler water, and it actually does help dry your sample quicker.
Any question, any thoughts before we start this next video?
Go through the highlights on the procedure here. The North Dakota DOT modification specifies the moisture content recorded to the nearest tenth, and then AASHTO is whole number on the moisture on the speedy, but we go to the nearest tenth. The speedy method is not to be used on granular materials having particles retained on the number 4. Your reagent has an expiration date, so you should verify the reagent in your box before using them, and make sure you close those cans tightly. The DOT 13492 is the conversion chart for this speedy tester to convert the dial reading. All their speedies are set up the same. They all have 2 steel balls in them. So they're a different size depending on what model you have, and they all have some sort of a scale in there, either a electronic balance or the old balance beam like the one I'm going to show you. Before you run the test, verify that the inside of the body and cap are free of any other residue from a previous test. Use 3 scoopfuls of reagent for your first initial time. You can use up to 3 to 5 if you have to. And then make sure you rotate it for 10 seconds, rest for 20 seconds. I didn't put that in the video because we don't run them here in the Fargo district. And then continue for a minimum of 3 minutes on the rotate for 10 seconds, rest for 20 seconds to let the chemical reaction take place. But you really need to do it until the needle stops moving. If the needle goes over the dial on the speedy, then you have to cut your sample in half and rerun, and then you'll double your readings on your chart. That's pretty much all I have for that. If you want to show the video, Kurt.
Hi, I'm Mark Riley with the North Dakota DOT Fargo District. I'm going to show you the North Dakota T217 determination of moisture in soils by means of calcium carbide gas pressure moisture tester, most commonly known as a speedy. You can find the procedure for that in the North Dakota DOT Field Sampling and Testing Manual. If you're not sure yours is updated, please check the DOT website for the most updated version. Okay, we have our speedy kit. Our kits here are a little older than maybe the ones you guys use because we still have the old balance scale here, but they both work the same. So you got your little cup here. Okay, and you also have the little weight that hooks on the back side here if you have to run half the sample because your moisture is too wet. Also inside the kit is your speedy moisture gauge. The 2 balls that go in there. Should have a towel for cleaning, a can of reagent, a brush for cleaning, another brush, and a scoop to get your reagent can open, to scoop out and put in. So, to run the speedy tester, first thing you would do is put your cup on there. You would fill this cup up with material until it weighs level. Okay, then you take the material from your cup here, and there's 2 different ways of doing it. I believe the standard says to put the soil in the lid. I was taught to put the soil in the speedy. It doesn't matter as long as you don't introduce the calcium carbide into the dirt until it's sealed. So once you would put the dirt in there and place the balls in, you would open your reagent, put 2 scoops in the lid, close your reagent, put back in your tester. Now, since you don't want to introduce this to the soil because it produces a settling gas as a byproduct of I hold it flat and tighten the lid. Invert to introduce the calcium carbide reagent into the sample. Then you want to take the meter for a little bit, let it rest, reshake it, keep shaking your sample until your needle stops on the pressure. Now, if you go over the top, then you need to dump this material out and use half the sample where the weight would come in. And you would rerun this. So if this stopped at 10, we would take our little conversion chart here and run over to 10 on the wet weight of the speedy here. It would be 11.1% moisture off of the correction chart. And then if you ran half the sample, and you ran to 10, then it would actually be 20. And that moisture would be 25. Now, when you open this after the test, hold it away from yourself, keep your hands on the lid, and open this away from you in a vented area because it's going to release acetylene gas as the byproduct. Then dump everything out on the ground. Clean everything out. Take the towel, wipe the balls off. And that is the determination of moisture by the speedy.
So here's a close-up of that conversion chart, and whatever you get on the gauge, as Mark mentioned, then you want to go over to the chart and figure out what you'd be entering on would be the. So if you had if you read 12, say 10% on the gauge here, you would go over to the wet column here, and your actual reading or the adjusted reading for the dry percentage would be 11.1. As you notice, as the material gets wetter, there's quite a bit difference between the wet and the dry, and that's some of the reasons that speedy moisture. When you get moistures that are really high, it tends to you got to watch it. That's all I can say is that you might have more of a chance of getting more of an erroneous reading when it's higher out in this. So you want to watch it if you're using it, and you want to, if you have a sample that you ran in a speedy, as I mentioned earlier, take a split of that sample and run it through an oven or a microwave or something, and see what you get there to make sure that these things they need to be adjusted or as you're going corrected to the whatever was done in the oven. Then that's what needs to be. Continue on. So safety, as Mark mentioned, when you unload that, when you take the material out of it, you want to be able to do it downwind so you're not breathing it and stuff. So you want to be careful with this test. And you can almost, as you can see, the size of the sample that Mark had there, it was very little. And so you can imagine if you have a coarse-grained soil, that a lot of the soil there is stone. And so you have to be kind of careful. So it's really not recommended for coarse-grained soils. It's more for like fine-grained soils like clays and silts and things like that you'd see more in the valley area. Or sands, I guess.